The bolt would not move. December 23rd, 1944, 7:55 in the morning. Bastogne, Belgium. Sergeant Daniel Hayes pressed against frozen earth in a foxhole that smelled of pine needles and fear. His fingers wrapped around the stock of his M1 Garand numb, despite the wool gloves. Through binoculars crusted with frost, he watched them come. 15 German panzer tanks emerged from the tree line like mechanical beasts from nightmare. Their engines produced a sound that carried across snow-covered fields. Low, rhythmic, the sound of inevitability. Behind the armor came infantry, 200 soldiers moving in formation so precise they could have been drawn with rulers on the white landscape. The radio crackled, static mixed with a voice tight with stress. Eagle Nest to all forward observers. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. Conserve ammunition for close defense. Danny's hand moved to his breast pocket without conscious thought. Found the photograph there. Stiff with dried blood and mud, torn at one corner. The face in the picture smiled up at nothing now. Michael Carson, Mikey, dead 2 months because Danny's rifle had not fired fast enough. The Germans were 850 yards away. Orders said, wait, let them come. Conserve ammunition. But the rifle Danny held was no longer standard issue. For 3 months he had worked in secret, filed surfaces inside the trigger mechanism, used a spring from Mikey's broken pocket watch, created something the Army had never authorized, a trigger that could fire 60 rounds per minute instead of 30, a modification that could earn him 5 years in military prison or save hundreds of American lives. Danny whispered to the photograph in his pocket. Words only he could hear. This is for you, Mikey. Then his finger slid onto the trigger mechanism that should not exist. And he prepared to begin what military historians would later call the impossible defense of Bastogne's northwest perimeter. But this story does not start in Belgium. It starts in Ohio, in a coal mining town where a boy learned that sometimes what exists is not as important as what could exist, where a child discovered that the difference between broken and working is just understanding, and where two friends made promises they believed would last forever. Daniel Hayes entered the world on April 7, 1922, Hartfield, Ohio, a town owned entirely by Consolidated Mining Company. The houses belonged to the company. The store charged against wages paid by the company. Even the church had been built with company money. 3 rooms housed 6 people in the Hayes family home on Mercury Street. The walls were so thin that sound passed through like water through cheesecloth. You could track the neighbors' lives by audio alone. Arguments at dinner, laughter before bed, the wet coughs that came for every miner eventually. Robert Hayes worked underground, 3,000 feet down in tunnels where you moved on hands and knees. Rock dust filled the air thick enough to taste. Every evening he came home coated in powder, the color of rust. He would stand at the kitchen sink coughing for 20 minutes before his lungs cleared enough to speak. Deep, rattling coughs that shook his whole frame. Young Danny learned to recognize the sound of his father's cough, could tell by the timbre whether it was a good day or bad day, whether the dust had been light or heavy, whether his father had worked near the shaft where fresh air circulated or deep in the tunnels where the air sat still and thick. Danny was 10 years old when his father showed him the pocket watch, a silver Hamilton with Roman numerals and a second hand that swept around the face with mechanical precision. Robert explained how all the tiny pieces worked together, springs and wheels and jewels, creating harmony through engineering. Danny became fascinated by that precision, how invisible mechanisms produced visible results, how timing mattered, how every component affected every other component. One Saturday morning while Robert worked a double shift, Danny disassembled the watch completely. 37 separate pieces spread across the kitchen table in careful rows, springs smaller than matchsticks, gears smaller than his fingernail, jewels that caught the light like tiny stars. Margaret Hayes found her son there 3 hours later. Her face went pale. Your father will be furious. That watch was his grandfather's. Danny said nothing, just worked with focus that seemed impossible for someone so young. 4 hours after beginning, he handed the reassembled watch to his mother. She held it to her ear. The tick was steady, precise. She wound it and watched the hands move. The watch ran perfectly. Better than before, actually. Something about how Danny had cleaned the escapement and adjusted the balance wheel. When Robert came home that evening and learned what happened, he stared at his son for a long moment. Then something changed in his expression. Pride replaced anger. He understood his son possessed something rare, an instinct for mechanical systems that could not be taught from books. 2 years later, Uncle Thomas returned from hunting with a Winchester rifle that would not fire. The firing pin had broken in a way the local gunsmith said was irreparable. A new mechanism would cost $50, more than a month's wages for Uncle Thomas. Danny asked if he could examine it. Uncle Thomas laughed but handed over the rifle. What could be lost, already broken? Danny disappeared into the tool shed for 3 days. He had no gunsmithing training, no diagrams, no manuals written by experts, just his hands and mind and ability to see how things should work. He filed down the broken firing pin using sewing needles from his mother's basket, reshaped it with metal files from his father's toolbox. The solution was so unorthodox that when Uncle Thomas showed the repaired rifle to the gunsmith, the man asked to examine Danny's work. The gunsmith told Robert something that would echo through Danny's entire life. The boy thinks differently than most people. He sees what things could be, not just what they are. This mechanical intuition followed Danny through school. He struggled with abstract concepts. Math equations on blackboards made no sense. But give him a broken engine or jammed mechanism, and he diagnosed problems instantly. His shop teacher said Danny thought in 3 dimensions while most people thought in 2. Understanding space and relationship and interaction without needing to visualize it first. By age 19, Danny had a reputation in Hartfield. The kid who could fix anything. Tractors that would not start. Clocks that kept wrong time. Manufacturing equipment from the mine that broke under constant use. He worked with instinct that seemed supernatural to people who did not possess it. 2 doors down Mercury Street lived his best friend, Michael Carson, born June 1923. 1 year younger than Danny, but they had been inseparable since early childhood. Mikey was everything Danny was not. Outgoing where Danny stayed quiet. Quick with jokes where Danny stayed serious. Made friends easily while Danny preferred solitude with his tools. But they balanced each other. Mikey dragged Danny to social events. Danny taught Mikey how engines worked and why tolerances mattered. They were brothers in every way except blood. Mikey had a younger sister, Emma, born 1930, 11 years old when the war started. She adored both boys, followed them around Hartfield asking endless questions, begged to learn how to fix things the way they did. Danny showed her patience. Mikey showed her protection. She was the sister neither of them had by birth. December 7th, 1941, changed 3 lives forever. That Sunday afternoon, Danny and Mikey played cards at the Carson house, teaching Emma the basics of poker. Mrs. Carson disapproved but allowed it because the boys were teaching strategy, not gambling. The radio played swing music in the background. Benny Goodman, Tommy Dorsey, the soundtrack of America before everything changed. The music stopped mid-song. An announcer's voice came through, shaking slightly. We interrupt this program for a special bulletin. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by air. The attack began at approximately 7:55 this morning Hawaii time. The cards fell from their hands. The room went silent except for the radio voice continuing with fragments of information. Ships burning, casualties unknown, declaration of war expected. Robert Hayes arrived 30 minutes later, still covered in coal dust because the mine had called an emergency meeting. Boys, this means war. You will be drafted. Mikey tried optimism. War will be over by Christmas. We will march in victory parades. Danny said nothing, just thought about systems, about how war was the largest mechanical system humans had created. And like all mechanical systems, it would break in ways no one expected. Would need people who understood how to fix what broke. December 9th, Danny and Mikey walked together to the Army recruiting station on 4th Street. 7 other Hartfield boys already there. All enlisted the same day. Danny would turn 19 the following April. Mikey would turn 19 in June. At the train station, Emma cried. 11 years old, watching her brother and his best friend board a train to somewhere dangerous. She made them promise something impossible. Come home together. Watch each other's backs. Mikey hugged her tight. Promise, Em. Your brother and Danny, we are a team. Nothing breaks us up. Danny knelt to Emma's level. I will keep him safe, Emma. I promise. That promise haunted him 60 years. The train to Fort Benning, Georgia took 3 days. Mikey talked the entire journey, made friends with every soldier in their car, told stories, shared jokes, drew people out. Danny sat by the window thinking about rifles, the M1 Garand specifically, semi-automatic, 8-round in-block clip, gas-operated, revolutionary design. Could fire 30 rounds per minute in trained hands. But Danny's mind kept returning to the trigger mechanism, the disconnector that forced the trigger to return fully before the next round could fire. Necessary for safety, prevented accidental discharge, but it also limited rate of fire. Mikey noticed Danny's silence. You are already planning something, thinking about how a semi-automatic rifle might be improved. Faster cycling, Mikey laughed. Leave it to you to think about modifying Army property before you even touch one. Fort Benning in summer 1942 was brutal for boys used to Ohio cold. Georgia heat pressed down like wet wool. Drill instructors seemed personally offended by their existence. Every mistake earned extra duties. Every hesitation brought corrections, shouted 6 inches from your face. Day 3 changed everything. Firing range. The instructor handed Danny an M1 Garand for the first time. Standard issue, 8 pounds of walnut and steel. Danny felt the balance immediately. Weight distribution, shin movement. The mechanical harmony of how parts fit together. You will fire at targets 200 yards downrange. You will fire at all 8 rounds. You will achieve qualifying score of 6 hits minimum. Danny aimed. The rifle felt correct in his hands. Extension of his body. He understood its geometry intuitively. Wind, elevation, the slight pull to the right from a barrel manufacturing tolerance. He compensated without conscious thought. 8 rounds, 8 center mass hits. The instructor examined the target in silence, then looked at Danny with something close to suspicion. Lucky. Danny reloaded, fired again. Same result, perfect score. By day's end, Danny had outshot every recruit, then outshot 2 instructors. Staff Sergeant Victor Brennan, Rangemaster, approached as the sun set through Georgia pines. Hayes, you hunt back home, some sergeant. Mostly just understood the geometry, angles and timing, like fixing a clock. Brennan stared. Another recruit nearby muttered loud enough for others to hear. Clockwork. The nickname spread. By evening, everyone called him Clockwork Hayes. The name stuck through the entire war. Week 4 brought the first disciplinary action. Caught adjusting his rifle sights with a small file during cleaning. He tried explaining. The sights are misaligned from factory sergeant. Point of impact is 2 inches right at 200 yards. I can correct it. Brennan's face turned red. Army Ordnance tested these at Springfield. You think you know better than engineers with college degrees? Just see what it could be, Sergeant. 3 days extra duty, scrubbing latrines and kitchen patrol. Week 7, second action, modified his backpack straps using spare webbing. Created weight distribution that reduced shoulder pressure, increased hip load, demonstrated the improvement to his squad. Brennan caught him. Hayes, this is unauthorized modification. You will restore all packs to original configuration. But Sergeant, this design reduces fatigue by 40% on 8-hour marches. I did not ask for engineering lecture. 3 more days extra duty. Week 10 nearly ended Danny's Army career. Brennan entered the barracks at 3 in the morning for surprise inspection. Found Danny at a table, rifle completely disassembled, components laid out in precise order, small file in hand, working on the trigger housing group. Hayes, what the hell are you doing? Creating smoother action, Sergeant. Standard trigger has excessive resistance on reset. The disconnector requires full travel before next round fires. I can reduce that travel by filing engagement surfaces and reducing spring tension. Would increase practical rate of fire significantly. You are filing military property. This is destruction of government equipment. Making it work better, Sergeant. Brennan's face went purple. 1 week extra duty, written reprimand. Report to company commander at 0700. The company commander was a captain from Virginia who had fought in World War I. He listened to Brennan's report in silence, then asked Danny one question. Will your modification make the rifle more dangerous to the soldier using it? No, sir. More effective, not more dangerous. Safety mechanisms remain intact. The captain considered for a long moment. No punishment, But Hayes, if I catch you modifying equipment again before deployment, you transfer out. Understood. Yes, sir. Despite disciplinary issues, Danny's marksmanship could not be ignored. Consistent hits at 800 yards, 900. Once perfect conditions, he hit a target at 1,000 yards with iron sights. Impossible with an M1 Garand. Except Danny did it. December 1942 brought orders. Assignment to the newly formed 101st Airborne Division. Designated marksman. The Screaming Eagles. Elite airborne unit created for parachute operations. Mikey received orders the same day. Different squad. Same unit. They celebrated. Told you, Danny. We stick together. September 1943. The division deployed to England. Greenham Common in Berkshire. Intensive training for invasion everyone knew was coming. Danny struggled fitting in. Paratroopers had been together since formation. Tight bonds, suspicious of newcomers. His constant tinkering made them nervous. Here comes clockwork, about to break something. Mikey bridged gaps, made friends, defended Danny. Reminded everyone Danny could outshoot anyone in the division. Brennan transferred to the same unit, still skeptical. Hayes' army spent millions designing that rifle. Engineers with degrees from MIT and Caltech. What makes a farm boy from Ohio think he knows better? I just see what it could be, Sarge. But Danny continued working in secret. Late nights while others slept, using tools acquired or improvised. Small file. Broken pocket watch providing springs. Working by candlelight. Adjusting trigger mechanism. Testing action. Making incremental improvements. Mikey discovered him one night. Danny, if they catch you, it is court-martial. 5 years in Leavenworth. Only if it does not work. And if it does work, then maybe we both come home to Emma, June 6, 1944. D-Day, the invasion, 200 hours. Danny and his squad boarded C-47 transport aircraft. The plane filled with nervous energy. Some men prayed, some told jokes, some sat in silence. Danny checked his rifle one more time. Standard configuration, had not yet installed modification. Too risky, too untested. The drop into Normandy was chaos. Anti-aircraft fire, planes burning, parachutes tangling, men scattered across miles of French countryside. Danny landed hard in a hedgerow 3 miles from his designated drop zone. Alone, separated from his unit, 18 hours alone in enemy territory, moving at night, hiding during day, navigating by compass and stars, working east toward American positions. Morning of June 6th. Danny heard voices. German. 3 soldiers in a clearing. Radio equipment. They had not seen him yet. 3 seconds to decide. Engage or evade. Training said evade when possible. But these 3 had a radio. Intelligence on American positions. If they reported back, more paratroopers died. Danny engaged. Standard rifle. 3 shots in 5 seconds. 3 Germans dead before returning fire. He reached American lines June 7th, found Mikey. Mikey grabbed him in a hug that lifted Danny off the ground. Thought you were dead, thank God. Corporal Samuel Brooks, veteran who jumped Sicily, asked about the patrol encounter. Heard you eliminated 3 hostiles. What happened? 3 aimed shots at 100 yards. Brooks raised an eyebrow. 3 shots that fast. Nobody gets 3 aimed shots off that quick, with a groan. Danny met his eyes. You can if you fix the trigger reset, Corporal. Something shifted in the squad that day. Maybe Clockwork's modifications were not crazy. Maybe the kid from Ohio actually understood something Army engineers missed. 4 months of combat through France followed. Normandy hedgerows, approaching Paris. September brought pullback to England for rest. September 17th, Operation Market Garden, airborne assault into Holland. Objective capture bridges over major rivers. Allow Allied armor to drive into Germany. End war by Christmas. It did not go as planned. November 12th, Danny's squad and Mikey's squad combined for joint patrol near Eindhoven. Intelligence reported small German garrison holding a crossroads. Orders, reconnaissance, and assessment. 1,400 hours. The patrol encountered more than intelligence suggested. Machine gun nest, German MG-42. Rate of fire 1,200 rounds per minute. Sound like ripping canvas. Devastating. American patrol pinned immediately. Mikey's position exposed. 40 yards from cover, open ground. He needed suppressive fire to cross. Danny tried, fired as fast as possible with standard trigger, maximum 30 rounds per minute, aimed at the machine gun position carefully. But the MG-42 kept firing between Danny's shots. German gunner adjusted. Tracked movement. Mikey tried running during one of Danny's shots. Machine guns swung toward him. Multiple impacts. Mikey fell 15 yards from cover. Danny screamed, kept firing frantically. Same slow rate. Trigger mechanism required full reset between each shot. Quarter inch of travel, fraction of a second. But fractions add up. Suppressive fire was not enough. Another American squad flanked the position finally. Grenade into the machine gun nest. German crew eliminated. Danny reached Mikey, still alive. Barely. Blood everywhere. Too much blood. Field medic working frantically, but both knew. This was mortal. Mikey's hand groped for his breast pocket. Photograph. Emma, 14 years old now, standing in front of Hartfield House, smiling at the camera. Mikey's voice barely audible. Danny, I am sorry. Emma's bicycle, I promised her. You will buy it yourself, Mikey. Stay with me. Buy them time, Danny. Mikey coughed blood. Just buy them time. His eyes fixed on something Danny could not see. Stopped breathing. Danny held his best friend's body in Dutch mud. 19 years of memories. 2 boys in Ohio fixing watches and learning to shoot. Promises made to an 11-year-old girl at a train station. All ending because Danny's rifle had not fired fast enough. The photograph fell into mud. Danny picked it up, wiped blood and dirt with trembling hands, put it in his own pocket. That photograph never left him again. November 13th, Danny sat alone in a damaged barn. Brooks found him there. It was not your fault, Clockwork. I fired as fast as I could. Was not fast enough. If I could fire twice as fast, I could have suppressed that machine gun. Mikey would have made it to cover. You cannot know that. I know that standard trigger was too slow. I know faster rate would have worked. I know I should have finished the modification months ago. Brooks had no answer. Danny became obsessed. November through early December, he worked every spare moment. The trigger modification he had started at Fort Benning. He would finish it now. Perfect it. Make it work. He used parts from Mikey's broken watch. The watch Mikey wore when he died. Symbolic. Mikey's time becoming a weapon to buy time for others. December 10th, Danny showed completed modification to Brooks in secret. Demonstrated when no officers watched. 6 rounds in 2 seconds. All center mass on target 200 yards away. Brooks whispered, Jesus, Danny, that is not a Garand anymore. That is what would have saved Mikey. If officers find out court-martial. 5 years Leavenworth. Danny's voice was flat, empty. I do not care anymore. This is for Mikey, for the promise I made Emma. Brooks swore secrecy. Danny installed modification permanently. Tested extensively, it worked flawlessly. 60+ rounds per minute. Double standard rate. Trigger barely had to move. Just small taps. Rapid fire without converting to full automatic. December 16th, Hitler launched his last desperate gamble. Massive surprise offensive through Ardennes forest. 200,000 German troops. 1,000 tanks. Caught allies completely unprepared. The Battle of the Bulge. December 18th evening. 101st Airborne in France recuperating from Holland. Urgent orders came down. Move immediately to Bastogne, Belgium. Critical road junction. Must be held at all costs. Transport in open trucks. Freezing cold. Many soldiers still in light uniforms. No winter gear. No time to requisition proper equipment. Move now or lose Bastogne. Danny sat in truck holding Mikey's photograph. Sam Brooks beside him. You thinking about Market Garden, thinking I am done letting good men die because rifles fire too slow. This time I have the right tool. This time I can buy them the time they need. December 19th morning. Division rolled into Bastogne as German forces completed encirclement. 11,000 American defenders, 45,000 Germans, 400 German tanks, 20 American tanks. Temperature dropped to 20 below zero. Snow and fog, visibility under 100 yards. Medical supplies critically low, ammunition rationed. Food scarce. No resupply possible with weather grounding aircraft. German forces had experience from Eastern Front. Winter warfare specialists, Americans mostly from southern states. Little cold weather training. December 22nd, German ultimatum delivered under flag of truce. Surrender or be annihilated. General Anthony McAuliffe's reply became legend. Nuts. Germans infuriated, ordered all-out assault. Intelligence indicated main thrust would hit northwest sector. Weakest position. 3-mile stretch held by 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment at 70% strength. December 22nd evening, Sergeant Daniel Hayes assigned to forward observation post, 1 mile northwest of Bastogne Center. Small wooded rise, good fields of fire, hastily dug foxhole reinforced with pine logs. With Danny Corporal Sam Brooks, his spotter who knew about modification. Private Luis Martinez, 19 years old from New Mexico replacement, who joined 3 weeks earlier. Captain Robert Foster gave orders. Observe enemy movements. Report by radio. Do not engage unless directly attacked. Confronting superior force would be suicide. Danny examined his modified rifle. Touched Mikey's photograph. Sam watched him. You are planning something. Just planning to follow orders, Corporal. Sam did not believe him. December 23rd, 5:45 in the morning. Through binoculars, Danny could see German forces massing. 15 Panzer tanks, 200 infantry minimum, artillery positioning, 88mm guns that could reduce American positions to rubble, 700 hours, German artillery open fire, 30-minute barrage, shells exploding in sequence, concussive force compressing lungs. Danny, Sam, and Luis huddled in foxhole, log coverings shaking with each impact. 7:30, artillery stopped. Eerie silence broken only by moans of wounded. Then distinctive sound of tank engines. Low mechanical growl growing louder. Danny peered over foxhole edge, Germans emerging from trees, 900 yards away, advancing in professional formation. 7:55, radio crackled. Captain Foster's voice. Eagle Nest to all forward observers. Report enemy movements but maintain position. Do not engage. Repeat. Do not engage. Conserve ammunition for close defense. Danny keyed radio. Eagle Nest, this is Watchdog 3. Observing approximately 15 Panzer tanks, 200-plus infantry advancing grid, Baker 7. Estimate 20 minutes to forward line at current pace. Over. Pause. Foster's strained voice. Acknowledged wired. Watchdog 3. Continue observation. Battalion is aware. Help is on the way. Over. Danny, Sam, and Luis all knew that was a lie. No help was coming. Not in time. Danny made his decision. Martinez, I need you to run back to Captain Foster's position. Tell him our radio is damaged and we cannot communicate. Tell him we are staying to observe, but may need to relocate. Go now. Luis looked confused. But Sergeant, radio works fine. Radio will be broken as soon as you leave. Now go. That is an order, Private. Luis hesitated, then crawled backward through shallow communication trench toward American lines. Sam turned to Danny. What are you planning? Clockwork? Danny repositioned himself. Modified Garand, resting on fallen log. Perfect shooting platform. I am going to create a diversion. Buy our guys some time. Sam's eyes widened. With one rifle against 15 tanks and 200 men. That is suicide. Danny did not look away from scope. Not if they do not know where I am or how many of us there are. He reached in pocket, pulled out crude metal device, handed it to Sam. Made this too. Sound deflector. Fits over muzzle. Changes the report. Makes it echo. They will not be able to pinpoint source. Sam examined it. When did you make this? After Mikey died. Been preparing for this. For what? For keeping my promise to Emma. Keeping Mikey's friends alive. Danny reached for photograph. Blood-stained, mud-creased. Held it for a moment. Buy them time, Mikey said. He returned photo to pocket. Took deep breath. Whispered. This is for you. 800 hours exactly. Germans 850 yards away. Advancing steadily. 117 American soldiers in foxholes with 65 rounds each. 250 caliber machine guns. 3 bazooka teams with 7 total rockets. Mathematics brutal and simple. Defenders would be overrun in 45 minutes. Unless one sergeant with a forbidden rifle could convince 15 tank crews and 200 infantrymen, they were facing an entire company with multiple automatic weapons. Danny exhaled halfway, finger on modified trigger that could earn him 5 years in prison, or save 700 American lives, or both. He squeezed. The impossible defense began. The first shot left the barrel at precisely 800 hours and 15 seconds. The sound was wrong, not the sharp crack of a standard M1 Garand, but something distorted. The deflector Danny had fashioned from scrap metal altered the report bent. It made it echo through the pine forest in ways that defied normal acoustics. The sound seemed to come from three places at once. 850 yards downrange, the German officer, standing in the turret of the lead Panzer tank, lurched backward. His binoculars fell from his hands. He was dead before his body slumped into the tank. Confusion rippled through the German formation like a stone thrown into still water. Officers began shouting, hands pointed in different directions. Where had the shot originated? What were they facing? Danny did not pause to observe the effect. His finger moved on the modified trigger. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. The rifle barked in rapid succession, a sound no M1 Garand should produce. 5 shots in less than 3 seconds. 5 Germans fell in the snow. 2 radio operators, distinctive by the antenna packs on their backs. 1 Hauptmann directing infantry with aggressive hand gestures. 2 NCOs organizing the advance with whistles and shouted commands. The German infantry did what training demanded. They dove for cover. The neat formations that had looked parade ground perfect moments before dissolved into scattered clusters behind trees and snowbanks. The tanks halted. Commanders suddenly uncertain. Intelligence had said this sector was lightly defended, shattered observation posts with limited firepower. What was producing this volume of fire? Sam Brooks watched through binoculars, his voice carrying a note of awe he could not quite suppress. Danny, they think they are facing a whole company. Danny did not respond, already lining up his next sequence of targets. A group of 7 German soldiers attempting a flanking movement to the right, running between tree cover in bounds that showed professional training. Danny tracked the lead soldier, adjusted for wind, for distance, for the slight downward angle from his elevated position. Squeezed the trigger 7 times in 4 seconds. 4 Germans fell. The other 3 scrambled back to their original positions, abandoning the flanking attempt before it truly began. Sam's voice held disbelief. That rate of fire should not be possible, not from a semi-automatic rifle. Danny touched the photograph in his breast pocket briefly. Mikey needed it to be possible. The German response came at 8:15. Through his scope, Danny watched officers emerging from cover, conferring around a map spread on the hood of a vehicle, clearly confused, pointing at the woods where Danny hid, but also pointing 300 yards left, 400 yards right. The echo effect was working, creating phantom gun positions where only one existed. A tank commander emerged from his turret, field telephone in hand, calling for artillery support, trying to get coordinates on the American positions causing such disruption. Danny tracked him through the scope, 820 yards, wind from the left at approximately 5 miles per hour, adjusted his aim, 2 clicks right, 1 click up, exhaled, squeezed. The tank commander dropped, field telephone dangling from its cord, swinging slowly in the cold morning air. 8:30 brought a development Danny had not anticipated. Through the scope, he saw a new unit arriving at the German position. Different uniforms, distinctive field gray, with markings he recognized from intelligence briefings. Sam noticed them at the same moment. What are those markings? Feldgendarmerie, Wehrmacht military police. They do battlefield forensics. What does that mean? It means they track bullet impacts, calculate trajectory, find origin points. They are hunting us. Danny watched the Feldgendarmerie team examining trees where his bullets had struck. One soldier used a theodolite surveying equipment normally employed by engineers. Another measured angles with a protractor and string. A third made notes on a map marking points and drawing lines. They were triangulating his position through mathematics and physics. Given enough time and enough data points, they would calculate exactly where he was firing from. But the German advance continued despite the confusion. Large group of 40-plus soldiers preparing for a coordinated rush toward the American lines. Officers reorganizing, NCOs shouting encouragement, whistles ready to signal the charge. Danny fired a sequence before they could begin. 6 rounds targeting leaders, mix of officers and NCOs. The advance broke apart before starting. Men scattering back to cover, momentum lost. 8:45, another advance attempt. Germans using smoke grenades for concealment this time. Gray smoke drifting across the snow, obscuring movement, creating artificial fog. Danny fired at shapes moving through smoke, could not confirm hits through the obscuration, but the advance faltered anyway. The psychological effect of incoming fire from an unknown number of positions was devastating German coordination more effectively than the actual casualties. 900 hours. The Feldgendarmerie team was pointing directly at Danny's position now. One examined a map with a ruler, another used ranging equipment to measure distances. A third spoke urgently into a radio. Sam's voice carried warning. "Danny, they have calculated our position." "Not yet, but soon." Danny gathered equipment rapidly. "We move. Now, we're secondary position. 300 yards southeast, through that depression." They crawled through a communication trench, shallow, barely concealment, mud and ice water soaking through their uniforms, moving as fast as possible while staying below the ridgeline. 9:07, German artillery hit their original foxhole. 3 88mm shells in precise succession. High explosive. The log covering they had built disintegrated. The foxhole collapsed. If they had remained, both would be dead. Sam breathed hard from exertion and fear. They calculated our exact position. Danny was already setting up in the new location. Fallen tree. Pile of branches providing concealment. And now they think we are dead. Element of surprise returns. A pattern established itself over the next hour. Fire from a position for no more than 5 minutes. Just long enough to disrupt German reorganization attempts. Not long enough for artillery to calculate and target the location. Then relocate. Move 200 yards. 300 yards. Always staying ahead of the Feldgendarmerie calculations. 9:20, German third advance attempt from a new direction. Danny engaged from his new position. German surprised. Thought that rifle was destroyed. 8 rounds of targeted fire. Advance stopped. 9:32, relocated 200 yards north. Different angle of fire. New perspective on the battlefield. 9:45, German fourth attempt. All 15 tanks moving forward together this time. Infantry using the armor as mobile cover. Professional combined arms tactics. Danny shifted priority to tank commanders. 4 were exposed in turrets for visibility and communication. 4 rapid shots, 3 hits. Tank commanders killed or wounded. The tanks halted. Crews buttoned up now. Visibility severely reduced. Unable to coordinate with infantry effectively. The infantry without clear tank support found themselves exposed. Taking casualties not just from Danny, but from the American defensive line that could now engage with less fear of the tanks. The Germans pulled back, 9:58, relocated again, 250 yards west, always moving, always staying ahead of the artillery calculations. 10:07, German fifth attempt, largest yet. Coordinated 3-pronged assault, left, center, right, attempting to overwhelm the American line through multiple simultaneous thrusts. Danny could not cover all 3. Focused on the center prong, main effort, 11 rounds, rapid fire. Center broke, but left and right prongs continued advancing. Sam keyed the radio that still functioned, despite what they had told Luis. Watchdog 3 to Eagle Nest, enemy breakthrough imminent on left and right flanks. Center held, over. Captain Foster's voice came through tight with stress. Watchdog 3, fall back to defensive line. You have done enough, over. Danny's response was flat. Negative, Eagle Nest, still have ammunition, still buying time. Out. He switched aim to the left prong. 7 rounds, targeted officers. Left prong slowed but did not stop. Right prong now 400 yards from American forward line. Danny shifted aim, lined up his shot on an officer directing an anti-tank team. Team setting up a Panzerschreck. German equivalent of the bazooka, would destroy American machine gun positions if allowed to fire. Danny squeezed the trigger. Nothing happened. He squeezed again. Still nothing. The trigger was stuck in the fire position. Would not reset, pulled the charging handle. Bolt cycled, fresh round chambered. Trigger still frozen. The German anti-tank team 350 yards from American line was setting up. Clear line of sight to the 50 caliber machine gun position that anchored the American right flank. Loader preparing the rocket. Sam's voice carried urgency. Danny, they are going to take out our 50 cal. I know. Danny's hands worked frantically on the trigger mechanism. The watch spring inside had broken. Filed surfaces, binding. Metal worn smooth from the rapid fire over the past 2 hours. German team aiming now. Loader inserting rocket. Seconds away from firing. Danny's hands were shaking. Thought of Mikey. Buy them time. Mikey had died because the rifle was too slow. Now the rifle was too broken. Pulled the trigger housing out part way. Could see the problem. Sear engagement surface worn completely smooth. Not catching the disconnector properly. Modification had failed under sustained use. Reach for Mikey's photograph. Blood-stained, stiff. The edge was sharp where it had torn. Use the photo edge to manually lift the sear into engagement. Trigger reset. Aimed. Rifle fired. Anti-tank gunner hit. Fell backward. Rocket misfired. Exploded 20 feet away. Killed 2 other team members in the blast. But trigger stuck again. Danny manually reset it using the photo edge. Fired. Reset. Fired. Reset. Could maintain fire, but the rate had dropped from 60 rounds per minute to maybe 15. Still better than standard, but the advantage that had created such havoc in German coordination was diminishing. 10:23. Right prong reached American forward line. Close combat. Americans firing. Germans firing. Grenades. Bayonets. The chaos of men fighting at arm's length. Danny picked targets carefully with his reduced rate of fire. Officers. NCOs. Anyone directing troops. 10 shots. 10 manual resets using the photograph edge. 6 Germans down. 10:28. American counterattack. Captain Foster leading personally. Pushed Germans back 100 yards. Created breathing room. Sam watched the counterattack through binoculars. We bought them time to organize that. Danny examined his rifle. Trigger mechanism was failing completely now. Trigger is dying. Need to repair. How long? 20 minutes. Maybe. We do not have 20 minutes. Germans regrouping at the tree line. More visible now as fog lifted slightly. Officers shouting. Clearly preparing for one massive assault. All remaining forces. Overwhelming violence. Final push. 10:37. German preparation reached final stages. Tank engines revving. All 15 panzers moving forward. All remaining infantry. Estimate 150 soldiers. Coordinated assault designed to steamroll through the American line through sheer weight. American line 117 men, ammunition critically low, 250 caliber machine guns, limited bazooka rockets. The mathematics were brutal. Danny made a decision that defied every instinct of self-preservation. He stood up, fully exposed on the small ridge. Rifle raised high. Sam grabbed at him. Danny, what are you doing drawing their fire away from our line? Danny fired at the German command group. Slow, deliberate shots. Manual reset between each. Using the photograph edge to lift the sear, and aiming for officers trying to coordinate the massive assault. Every German soldier in the area saw him. One American silhouetted against the gray sky. Standing alone. Defiant. Impossible to miss. German troops turned their rifles toward him. Hundreds of weapons. Open fire. Bullets snapped past Danny's head. Hit the ground around his feet. Kicked up snow and frozen earth. One grazed his left shoulder. Pain. Blood. He kept firing. The effect was exactly what Danny had calculated. German infantry now focused on him instead of advancing on the American line. Officers trying to redirect troops. Keep advancing, ignore the lone soldier. But soldiers instinctively shot at the exposed target. Human nature overriding tactical discipline. Danny fired 12 rounds in 90 seconds. Manual reset for each. Hit 6 officers attempting to restore order, 2 runners carrying messages, 4 soldiers who had turned to fire at him. German coordination collapsed. Without constant officer direction, the assault lost cohesion. Some infantry advanced. Some stayed firing at Danny. Some took cover. The formation that should have rolled over the American line in one overwhelming wave became a disorganized mob. American line opened fire into the chaos. 50 caliber machine guns devastating at this range. Bazooka teams targeting tanks without infantry support. 2 tanks hit, burning, black smoke rising into gray sky. Danny emptied his rifle. 8 rounds, manual reset for each, then dove back to cover. Sam pulled him down hard behind the fallen tree. "You are insane." Danny, breathing hard from adrenaline and exertion, bought them time. He checked Mikey's photograph. Now had a bullet hole through the corner. The photo had been in his breast pocket. Stopped or deflected a bullet that would have hit his heart. Sam saw the hole. "Photo saved your life." Danny's voice was soft. "Mikey is still watching out for me." 10:40. Danny examined the rifle. Trigger completely non-functional now. Sear broken beyond field repair. Cannot engage anymore. Search through their equipment. Sam's rifle was standard issue. Luis had left his rifle behind when Danny sent him away. Both had standard slow triggers, but they were functional. German attack continuing, but disorganized. American line holding, but barely. Radio traffic indicated ammunition critically low across entire perimeter. Sam keyed his radio. "Watchdog 3 to Eagle Nest. We are Winchester on ammunition. Request immediate resupply or permission to withdraw. Over." Foster's voice came through. "Watchdog 3, hold position. Help is coming. Over." Sam looked at Danny. "What help? There is no help." Danny loading Sam's rifle with his remaining ammunition. Standard slow trigger felt wrong in his hands after hours with the modification. "Then we make every shot count. 8 rounds total between them. Standard configuration, Germans reorganizing 600 yards away, 150 plus infantry, 13 functioning tanks, preparing for one final overwhelming assault. The mathematics were impossible." Sam's voice was quiet. "Been an honor serving with you, Clockwork." Danny started to respond. "Tell Emma," then stopped. Different sound from above. Aircraft engines. But not the German engines they had heard occasionally. These were American. Pratt & Whitney radials. Unmistakable. 11:31. The clouds were breaking. First clear sky in 6 days. American C-47 transport planes overhead. Dozens of them. Parachutes deploying. Supply drops. Red, white, and blue canopies descending like snow. Ammunition, medical supplies, food, everything the defenders desperately needed. Then came the fighters. P-47 Thunderbolts. The distinctive sound of their engines was the most beautiful thing Danny had heard in days. Republic Aviation's masterpiece. 850 caliber machine guns per aircraft. 2,000 rounds of ammunition. Flying tanks. German formation, 600 yards away, preparing final assault, suddenly found itself exposed from above. No tree cover from aerial attack. Perfect targets. P-47s made their first strafing run. 50 caliber fire from above. Devastating. German infantry scattered. Tanks buttoned up completely. Attempted to withdraw, but tanks are slow. Aircraft are fast. Second wave of P-47s carried bombs. Targeted tank concentrations. Explosions bloomed orange and black against white snow. The sound rolled across the battlefield like thunder. Danny and Sam watched from their position. Germans retreating in disorder. Attack completely broken. American defenders cheering from foxholes. First good news in a week. Sam's voice carried relief and disbelief. The weather broke. Finally, Danny held Mikey's bullet-hole photograph. "Patton can get through now. This is over." German assault completely shattered. Tanks withdrawing in smoke. Infantry retreating to the tree line. The attack that should have rolled over the American line had been stopped by weather change air support and the actions of one sergeant with a modified rifle who had bought enough time for those reinforcements to matter. 11:45. Captain Foster's voice on radio. "All units enemy withdrawing. Maintain defensive positions. Battalion reports Patton's forces broke through to the south. Should reach us within 48 hours. Hold until then." Sam turned to Danny. "We did it. We held." Danny stared at Mikey's photo, face barely visible now through the bloodstains and bullet hole. "We bought them time." 12:05. Danny and Sam crawled through the drainage culvert back to American lines. Luis Martinez met them at the perimeter. "Sergeant, Corporal, you are alive. I thought when the artillery hit your position." "We relocated Luis, just following doctrine. Captain Foster's command post was a partially collapsed stone farmhouse, offered some protection from artillery and cold. Foster saw them enter. His expression was complex: anger, relief, respect, calculation. Hayes, Brooks, you disobeyed a direct order to not engage. Sam started to explain. Foster cut him off with a raised hand, and thank God you did. Battalion received word Patton broke through the German line to the south. We hold 48 hours, we get relieved. Your action this morning bought us critical time to reinforce the northwestern sector. Probably saved this entire position. Foster paused. Let me see that rifle, Sergeant. Danny handed over the modified Garand. Trigger mechanism broken, stock scratched and muddy, barrel still warm from sustained fire. Foster examined it closely, worked the broken trigger, inspected the filed surfaces inside the trigger housing, found the watch spring Danny had used, held it up to the light. Silence stretched for a long moment. This as Foster began slowly choosing words carefully. Hayes, this is ingenious, completely against regulations, potentially dangerous to the operator. Absolutely brilliant. How many rounds did you fire? And at what rate? 173 rounds, sir. In bursts of 5 to 7 rounds, each burst taking 2 to 4 seconds. Foster shook his head slowly. That is impossible with a standard Garand. The Germans must have thought they were facing multiple machine gun nests, an entire platoon of automatic weapons. That was the idea, sir. Foster handed the rifle back. Fix whatever is broken on that trigger. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. Intelligence says Germans will try again. Bigger assault. You may need this weapon functional. Sir, technically this modification is. Foster interrupted. Technically, Sergeant, I did not see any modification. I saw a rifle that performed exceptionally under extreme combat conditions. I saw a weapon that disrupted an overwhelming enemy force and bought American soldiers time to prepare proper defenses. Now go get some food and fix your weapon. Dismissed. Outside the farmhouse, Sam looked at Danny with new understanding. He knows. He is covering for you. Officers look the other way when results matter more than regulations. Danny examined the broken rifle. Trigger housing damaged beyond field repair in current conditions. But Sam's rifle was intact. Standard configuration, but functional. That night, Danny worked by candlelight, transferring the modification components from his broken rifle to Sam's rifle. 4 hours of careful work, hands cramping from cold and repetition. But the work was meditation. Mechanics he understood, metal and springs and surfaces that could be shaped and adjusted until they performed as needed. Sam watched him work. You are making mine like yours was. You are my spotter. If I go down, you continue the mission. Mission is to buy time. Danny touched Mikey's photograph. Dried blood flaking away at the edges. Bullet hole through the corner. Always has been. December 24th would bring another German assault. Weather clear meant air support available. But weather clear also meant Germans could see to coordinate their attack better. Artillery would be more effective. Tank commanders could direct fire with full visibility. The rifle modification was reinstalled, tested, functional, ready. Danny had 8 in-block clips, 64 rounds. Sam had similar ammunition count. Between them, perhaps enough to create the same psychological effect. Make the Germans think they faced more resistance than actually existed. Danny lay down that night still holding Mikey's photograph, whispered to it in darkness. Tomorrow, Mikey. Tomorrow we buy them more time. For Emma, for the promise, for all of it. 400 yards away, German forces prepared for Christmas Eve assault. 1,000 soldiers, 37 tanks, overwhelming force. Final push to take Bastogne before Patton arrived. And in a coal barn, one sergeant slept with a rifle that should not exist in a photograph that had stopped a bullet meant for his heart. The impossible defense would continue tomorrow. But tonight, for a few hours, there was rest. And the faint hope that promises made to dying friends could still be kept. That time bought with forbidden innovation and desperate courage might be enough to see the dawn. December 24th, 1944. 5:30 in the morning. Christmas Eve. German artillery opened fire before the sun rose. 90 minutes of continuous barrage. Shells falling in patterns calculated to destroy American positions before the final infantry assault. The sound was overwhelming. Not individual explosions, but a continuous roar that compressed air and squeezed lungs and made thought impossible. Danny and Sam had repositioned to an abandoned farmhouse 400 yards behind the forward line. Second floor, elevated position giving exceptional fields of fire across the entire northwestern approach. The farmhouse had taken artillery hits previously. Walls cracked, roof partially collapsed, but the stone construction provided better protection than foxholes. The rifle worked perfectly now. Modification reinstalled overnight. Tested 20 cycles in darkness. Smooth action, reliable reset, ready. Captain Foster's orders had been specific. Hayes target officers, radio operators, and anti-tank teams. Make every shot count. We have air support today if weather holds. But Germans know that. They will attack fast. Try to close distance before aircraft can intervene effectively. 700 hours, German artillery ceased. The sudden silence was almost painful after 90 minutes of continuous noise. Then the attack began. 37 panzer tanks, 1,000 infantry, 2-mile front. The largest German assault yet. Overwhelming force designed to break through before air support could fully engage. But American defenses had been reinforced with the time Danny bought on December 23rd. Additional 50 caliber machine guns repositioned during the night. Ammunition redistributed. Anti-tank teams placed at optimal positions based on observed German tactics. Danny engaged immediately. Modified rifle performing flawlessly. Targeted German anti-tank teams before they could set up and engage American positions. 723. German Panzerschreck team at 650 yards. 3-man crew. Danny fired 3 rounds in 1.5 seconds. All 3 crew eliminated before they could fire a single rocket. 731. Another team. 4 rounds, team destroyed. The pattern continued, Danny eliminating the anti-tank capability that would have destroyed American machine gun positions. Each German anti-tank weapon destroyed was 1 less threat to the American defense. Each crew killed was 3 fewer soldiers coordinating with tanks. The battle raged for 4 hours. Germans penetrated the perimeter 3 times through sheer weight of numbers. 3 times desperate American counterattacks pushed them back. Fighting at close range, grenades, rifle fire, men struggling in snow and mud. Throughout the chaos, Danny's modified rifle struck at critical moments. German officers attempting to coordinate advances fell. Radio operators trying to call for reinforcements died before transmitting. The psychological effect continued. Germans convinced they faced far more firepower than actually existed. 11:30. Weather fully clear. Perfect visibility. The P-47 Thunderbolts arrived in force. 20 aircraft. They came in low, strafing runs, then higher with bombs. German tanks burning, infantry scattered. The coordinated assault broke apart under aerial attack. By 1400 hours, the German attack had failed. 14 tanks destroyed. 300-plus German casualties. American line held. Battered, exhausted, ammunition nearly gone, but held. December 26, 0945. The sound of American tank engines from the south. Different from German engines. Unmistakable. Patton's 4th Armored Division breaking through the encirclement. First tanks rolling into Bastogne. The siege was over. American soldiers cheered from foxholes and buildings. Some cried, some just sat in silence, unable to process that they had survived. The Battle of the Bulge would continue another month. But Bastogne was secured. The critical junction remained in American hands. The German offensive had failed. January 3, 1945. Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe visited the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment, personally commending them for the defense of the northwestern perimeter. The general who had replied nuts to German surrender demands walked among the soldiers who had made that defiance possible. Captain Foster pointed out Danny to the general. Sir Sergeant Hayes here, designated marksman. His actions December 23rd and 24th significantly disrupted German coordination. McAuliffe approached. Sergeant Hayes, I understand you performed exceptionally during the defense. Just did my job, sir. May I see your weapon? Danny handed over the modified Garand. McAuliffe examined it closely, worked the trigger mechanism, felt the reduced resistance, inspected the filed surfaces inside the housing, found the watch spring, held it up to weak winter light streaming through broken windows. 1 minute of complete silence. Everyone in the room watching. Danny's heart pounding. This was the moment. Court-martial or approval, prison or continuation. McAuliffe handed the rifle back. His expression was carefully neutral. Ingenious work, Sergeant. The Army could use more men who think like you. That was all. No elaboration, no official recognition, no medals for the modification, but also no court-martial, no punishment, just tacit approval from the commanding general who had defended Bastogne. January 5th, Danny received promotion to staff sergeant. Standard progression, not special commendation. Just normal advancement. January 12th, transfer orders. Equipment evaluation and field modification section. Away from direct combat operations. Into technical role. The Army putting his mechanical genius to official but quiet use. Studying captured German weapons. Developing modifications to American equipment based on combat feedback. His trigger modification was analyzed by Army ordnance officers. Their report was carefully worded. Unauthorized trigger modification demonstrated in European theater shows potential for increased rate of fire. However, reliability concerns and increased ammunition consumption preclude general adoption. Recommend further study for specialized applications. Translation ingenious but will not become standard issue. The modification influenced several post-war designs, but Danny never received official credit. May 8th, victory in Europe. Germany surrendered. The war in Europe was over. Army offered Danny a permanent position. Technical specialist at Fort Benning, teaching weapons modification to new recruits. Danny declined. I did what I came to do, sir. Time to go home. October 15, honorably discharged, ranked technical sergeant, service record, exceptional technical skills in combat performance. No specifics about modifications. No mention of Bastogne details. No medals for December 23rd through 24th actions. The train ride from New York to Ohio took 3 days. Danny sat by the window watching America pass. Farmland, small towns, mountains. The country Mikey had died defending. The country that would never know what Danny had done to keep its sons alive. Hartfield looked exactly as he remembered. Same houses, same streets. The Carson house 2 doors down from his family home. Danny stood on the sidewalk for 10 minutes before finding courage to approach. Emma answered the door, 15 years old now, looked so much like the photograph Mikey had carried. Danny could barely speak. Emma, She hugged him without words, crying. Her parents appeared behind her. Mrs. Carson's eyes red. Mr. Carson's face aged beyond his years. Danny spent 2 hours telling them stories about Mikey. Funny ones, safe ones. Nothing about Holland, nothing about machine guns, nothing about blood and frozen mud. He told them Mikey had been brave, that death was quick. The lies soldiers tell families because truth serves no purpose except creating pain. As he prepared to leave, Emma stopped him. Danny, wait. Mikey wrote letters he never mailed, said he would give them to us when he got home. We found them in his footlocker, the Army returned. She handed Danny an envelope, his name written in Mikey's handwriting. Dated November 10th, 1944, 2 days before Mikey died. Danny's hands shook, taking it. Cannot read this now. Need to be alone. That is fine. But Danny, there was another letter. For Emma. She showed him. Mikey's handwriting. For Emma. Open if I do not come home. Emma had opened it. Read it dozens of times. One paragraph mentioned Danny. If something happens to me, tell Danny he did his best. Tell him to buy them time. I know he will understand. Tell him to keep the promise. Not for me, for all of them. Danny broke down. Mrs. Carson held him while he cried. First time he had cried since holding Mikey's body in Holland. 3 months of grief released in the Carson family kitchen. He used the GI Bill, enrolled in technical college in Columbus, mechanical engineering, graduated 1948, opened Hayes Machine Works in Hartfield, precision parts for agricultural equipment, skills from modifying rifles applied perfectly to civilian machinery. Business prospered in post-war economic boom. By 1955, 27 employees, contracts with John Deere International Harvester, comfortable but not wealthy. 1949, married Sarah Bennett, Hartfield school teacher, met at church social. When she asked about the war, would rather not talk about it. She understood, never pressed. That understanding was one reason Danny loved her. 3 children. Daniel Jr. born 1950, Robert born 1952, Emily born 1954, named after Emma Carson, a small private tribute to a promise kept. Children knew their father had served in the 101st Airborne, fought at Bastogne, nothing more. Danny kept Mikey's photograph in a desk drawer, only looked at it alone. Every December 23rd, Danny took the day alone, drove to the war memorial where Mikey's name was inscribed. Body buried in Netherlands American Cemetery, stone with his name in Hartfield. Danny sat for hours, talked to Mikey about the year, about Emma doing well, about keeping promises. Every December 26th, the phone rang. Sam Brooks. They talked about weather, families, work, never directly about Bastogne. Both understood what remained unspoken. Years passed. 1950s became 60s. Hayes Machine Works prospered. Danny coached Little League, active in church. To neighbors, a quiet veteran who never discussed the war. Nothing remarkable, nothing unusual. August 1969. Letter arrived from Sam Brooks. Organizing reunion. 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment veterans. Chicago, September 13th through 14th. Danny hesitated. Sarah persuaded him. You never talk about the war. Maybe seeing old friends would help. September 13, Chicago Hotel. 38 veterans attended. Danny was 47, hair graying at temples, saw Sam immediately. They hugged like brothers separated too long. Been too long clockwork. Luis Martinez approached. Now 44. Businessman from Albuquerque. Sergeant Hayes. I have wanted to talk to you for 25 years. That evening, formal dinner. Colonel Robert Foster, retired, spoke to the assembled veterans. Gentlemen, we gathered to remember Bastogne in December 1944. Official histories record that the 101st Airborne held the northwestern perimeter against overwhelming odds. What those histories do not record is how. Foster pointed directly at Danny. Sergeant Daniel Hayes modified his M1 Garand rifle in ways that would have earned court-martial under normal circumstances. He used that modified weapon on December 23rd and 24th to create the illusion of multiple automatic weapon positions where there was actually one man with exceptional ingenuity and courage. His actions disrupted German coordination, bought us critical hours to reinforce positions, contributed directly to successful defense of Bastogne. While official reports could not document this because it involved unauthorized equipment modification, those of us who were there know the truth. Standing ovation, 38 men on their feet applauding. Danny sat overwhelmed. Had not expected this public recognition after 25 years of silence. After dinner, Luis approached with tears streaming down his face. Sergeant, Danny, I need to tell you something. For 25 years, I felt guilty for what you sent me away from the observation post. December 23rd, said radio was broken. I left you and Corporal Brooks to face 300 Germans alone. I thought I was a coward, that I abandoned you. Luis, Colonel Foster told me tonight the truth. You wanted me gone, ordered me away on purpose. You knew you were going to disobey orders, did not want me involved in court-martial. That is why you sent me away. Danny met his eyes. I needed someone to tell Foster what was coming. Needed you out of the line of fire. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. Luis broke down completely. I thought I failed you. For 25 years, I carried that guilt. You helped save the line by reporting the intelligence. That was the mission. Luis hugged Danny. You saved us all. Danny showed him the photograph. Mikey's photo, still bloodstained, still with bullet hole through corner, which Danny had carried every day for 25 years. I did it for him. Best friend, died because my rifle was too slow. He said, buy them time. That is what I did. Luis looked at the damaged photograph. He would be proud. That night, Danny told Sarah everything for the first time. Hotel room, 2 a.m, everything. Childhood in Ohio, Mikey's friendship, the modification, Holland, Mikey's death, the promise, Bastogne, the photograph stopping a bullet. Sarah cried. You never told anyone, could not, was illegal, and felt like I failed Mikey. If I had finished the modification earlier, he might have lived. You honored his memory, saved hundreds. I hope so. The reunion changed something in Danny. For 25 years, he had carried the story alone except for Sam. Now others knew. The weight felt lighter somehow. Not gone, Never gone, but distributed across more shoulders. 1972, letter from Dr. Richard Thompson, military historian, Georgetown University, researching Battle of the Bulge. Multiple Bastonia veterans mentioned Danny's story, requested interview. Danny hesitated. Sarah encouraged. Your children should know what you did. August 1972. Thompson visited Hartfield. 3 days of interviews. Danny described technical details. Trigger modification process. Combat use. Tactical effects. Psychological impact on German forces. Thompson was fascinated. You essentially created a force multiplier using makeshift tools and mechanical knowledge. This represents organic battlefield innovation at its finest. 1974. Book published. Bastonia, The Critical Hours. Full chapter on Danny. The Clockwork Modification. How one sergeant's ingenuity changed a battle. Technical diagrams of trigger mechanism. Combat timeline. December 23rd through 24th. Interviews with Foster Sam Luis. Book brought recognition beyond veteran community. Letters from gun enthusiasts. Mechanical engineering professors teaching the modification as case study. Military historians requesting more information. Army Ordnance Museum contacting about potential display. Danny declined museum display. Real heroes were the 117 men who held that line, knowing relief might not come. They had standard rifles and low ammunition and held anyway. Put up memorial to them, not to me. Museum created display anyway. Field modifications by American soldiers, World War II. Danny's trigger modification featured prominently. Danny never visited it. 1978. Danny's children, now adults, read Thompson's book. Emily asked, Dad, why did you not tell us war was long time ago? Daniel Jr. pressed. You should write this down, your version, not historian's version. 1978 through 1983. Danny worked sporadically on memoir. Difficult process. Revisiting memories compartmentalized for 30-plus years. Most painful writing about Mikey. Some days could not continue. 1983. Memoir published. Clockwork, A Soldier's Story. Small Military History Press. 3,000 copies printed. Reviews modest but positive. Most valuable aspect documented dozens of other soldier-developed adaptations. Showed pattern. Commanders often looked away when regulations conflicted with battlefield reality. 1985. Documentary filmmaker contacted Danny. Project on Battle of the Bulge. Wanted Danny to participate. 1986. Filming. Danny demonstrated trigger modification on deactivated M1 Garand. Explained mechanics on camera. Powerful visual evidence of ingenuity under pressure. 1987. Bastonia, the Breaking Point broadcast on PBS. Danny's 15-minute segment most memorable. Elderly man demonstrating how he modified rifle 43 years earlier to save friends. Reached wide audience. Used in military history courses at West Point and Fort Benning. Late 1990s. Danny increasingly involved in veterans organizations. Historical preservation. Speaking at schools. Presentation always emphasized same point. Sometimes most effective solutions come from thinking beyond established procedures. Sometimes rules exist to be questioned, not just followed blindly. December 23, 2002. Last visit to Mikey's memorial. Danny, now 80, frail. Sam Brooks, 79, drove him. Sam's voice quiet. 58 years ago today. Danny touched the stone. Feels like yesterday. You did good clockwork. Did what Mikey asked. Bought them time. March 12, 2003. 14:30 hours. Danny at Hayes Machine Works. Now run by Daniel Jr., but Danny still tinkered. Working on friend's tractor carburetor. Something he understood. Metal and springs and how things should fit together. Massive heart attack. Dead within minutes. Died doing what he loved. Fixing machinery. March 15th. Funeral. St. Joseph's Catholic Church, Hartfield. 200 attendees. Family, friends, veterans from across the country. Colonel Foster, now 90, wheelchair-bound, delivered eulogy. Danny Hayes never sought recognition for what he did at Bastonia. He simply saw a problem, how to disrupt a superior enemy force with limited resources, and applied his natural mechanical genius to solve it. In doing so, he demonstrated the qualities that ultimately won the war: innovation, determination, Courage. Not just courage to fight, courage to think differently, courage to question regulations when lives were at stake. Sam Brooks spoke through tears. December 23rd, 1944. Danny and I were in that foxhole together. I watched him touch a photograph before he fired. His best friend's photo. Every shot he fired was a promise kept to a fallen friend. That was who Danny was. Kept promises, bought time, saved lives, never wanted glory, just wanted to do right by people he loved. Emma Carson attended, now 73, white hair, frail. With her were two boys, aged 10 and 12, Mikey's great-grandchildren. She approached the casket, placed two items on the lid. Mikey's original bullet-holed photograph Danny had carried, and a recent photo, Mikey's great-grandchildren playing baseball. Whispered words only she could hear. You kept your promise, Danny. You bought them time. Bought us all time. Mikey would be so proud. Military honors. 101st Airborne Honor Guard. Flag presented to Sarah. 3-volley salute. Taps played across the Ohio hills. Per Danny's wishes, Mikey's photograph was buried with him. Brothers reunited finally. The legacy did not end with death. Discovery Channel produced our documentary in 2005. Forbidden Modifications: How American Soldiers Won World War II with Unauthorized Innovations. Danny's story was central example. Included modern analysis of trigger modification. Battlefield forensics showing Danny's tactical impact. German perspective from declassified reports. German after-action reports from December 1944. Declassified in the 1990s. Wehrmacht intelligence assessment American positions. Northwest Bastonia sectors defended by estimated 3 to 5 automatic weapons concentrations. Volume of fire significantly higher than expected for standard semi-automatic rifles. Request additional armor support. Modern analysis confirmed those 3 to 5 automatic weapons were Danny Hayes with 1 modified rifle. Tactical impact: Germans diverted 2 additional panzer companies to Northwest sector. 30-plus tanks. This force distribution weakened other positions, contributed to overall offensive failure. Conservative estimate: Danny's actions influenced deployment of 1,000-plus German troops and 30-plus tanks away from more vulnerable sectors. Strategic effect immeasurable but significant. Post-World War II, U.S. Army's approach to equipment modification evolved. Experiences like Danny's led to systematic feedback procedures from combat units, rapid prototype testing of field-expedient modifications, disciplined initiative doctrine, modern equipment designed with modification and customization in mind. M16 and M4 platform today. Picatinny rails, modular components. Customization encouraged. This traces directly to lessons from soldiers like Danny Hayes. Military academies at West Point. Fort Benning Air Force Academy teach Hayes case study. Represents organic innovation under pressure. Tactical problem solving. Balance between regulations and battlefield reality. 2015. Fort Benning Ordnance Museum created updated display. Sergeant Daniel Hayes' innovation through adversity. Included original modified trigger housing donated by family. Mikey Carson's photograph with bullet hole. Technical diagrams. Video of Danny demonstrating modification from 1986 documentary. Modern M4 trigger groups showing evolutionary influence. Plaque text. Staff Sergeant Daniel Clockwork, Hayes 502nd Parachute Infantry, Regiment 101st Airborne Division. December 23rd through 24th, 1944, Bastonia, Belgium. Modified his M1 Garand rifle using makeshift tools to increase rate of fire from 30 to 60-plus rounds per minute. His actions disrupted German coordination during critical defense, contributing to successful holding of strategic junction. Though unauthorized at time, his innovation influenced post-war weapons development and represented American soldiers' capacity for tactical adaptation under extreme conditions. Buy them time. Promise kept. Danny Hayes never became famous. Most Americans do not know his name. Official World War II histories barely mention him. But his legacy endures. In doctrine, modern disciplined initiative concept traces to soldiers like Danny. In equipment, modular weapon design philosophy reflects lessons learned from field modifications. In education, case study at military academies, teaching innovation under pressure. In memory, 117 men of 502nd who held northwestern perimeter because one sergeant bought them time. 2018. Emma Carson, age 88, visited Danny's grave with great-grandchildren. Mikey's great-great-grandchildren. Two headstones side by side at the cemetery. Michael Carson Memorial. Body in Netherlands. Daniel Hayes. Body in Hartfield. Danny's headstone inscription chosen by family Daniel Hayes. April 7, 1922 to March 12, 2003. Staff Sergeant 101st Airborne Division. He bought them time. Semper Fidelis to a friend. Emma told great-grandchildren the story. Two boys from Ohio. Best friends. War separated them. One fell, one carried his memory, one kept promises. Your great-great-grandfather said buy them time. Danny did. For 58 years, every day, Danny bought us time by honoring Mikey's memory. That is what heroes do. Not seek glory, just keep promises. Wind blew across Ohio hillside. Below Hartfield spread out. Same houses, same streets where two boys grew up fixing watches and learning about machinery. Above clouds moved across big sky. Small American flags fluttered at both graves. Brothers in arms, heroes who bought time. The story reminds us that real heroism often goes unrecognized. Most significant actions happen in obscurity. Greatest innovations come from desperation, not laboratories. And sometimes the most powerful weapon is not better machinery. It is a promise made to a dying friend. And the courage to keep that promise no matter the cost. Danny Hayes kept his promise to Mikey Carson, kept his promise to Emma, kept his promise to 117 soldiers holding a frozen line in Belgium. He bought them time, with a watch spring from a dead friend's broken timepiece, with mechanical genius learned in Ohio tool sheds, with courage to question regulations when lives hung in balance, with a photograph that stopped a bullet meant for his heart. 700 German soldiers learned that on a frozen December morning in 1944. American military doctrine changed forever because of it. And two boys from a coal mining town in Ohio proved that sometimes the difference between victory and defeat is not superior firepower or overwhelming numbers. Sometimes it is just one person who sees what could be instead of what is, who understands that rules serve people, not the other way around, who keeps promises even when keeping them means risking everything. Daniel Hayes was that person the world barely noticed. But the men who held Bastonia's northwestern perimeter noticed. They lived because he kept his promise. That was always enough for Danny, and in the end it is enough for history too.